We are doing a scope alignment on the port side of a East Bay 49. It's a traditional setup with a single strut, an exit tube without a bearing, and then a traditional engine transmission setup. We begin by calibrating the crosshairs in the scope. It's important to calibrate frequently because changes in temperature can affect the scope calibration, and since we are looking in thousandths of an inch, calibration is very, very important. The key is now to focus forward from the calibration point to the first set of optics, which is located in the center of the aft strut. You see the crosshairs remain constant in the scope, and we slowly focus in on the optics that are put inside the aft strut. You see the two crosshairs coming together in the middle of the optic, which shows that we have hit our target and we are in the center of the strut. Moving forward with our focus, we can see through this optic since it is clear, and we begin to focus in on the next optic, which has actually been placed in the center of the shaft log or exit tube, and that is optic with an A written on it. By focusing in sharply, you see that the crosshairs on the scope also meet the crosshairs on this particular optic. By having the crosshairs directly in the middle of the strut and in the middle of the exit tube, and by not moving the scope, we have created a fixed line that is the alignment line for this particular shaft. The next thing that we would look at is moving forward again with the focusing. The A or exit tube optic goes out of focus, and what slowly comes into focus is an optic that is labeled M, and this optic is actually bolted on to the pilot of the transmission flange on this particular motor. And as we bring the focus in sharp, you can see that this motor is just slightly high in the back end and ever so slightly to the outboard. And this is actually only a couple of thousandths out because this motor has already had an initial alignment. We started aligning this motor earlier today. So there's just a little bit more that we can do here, but more typically we would see the crosshairs would be off by almost a full circle or a half a circle, which would equate to maybe a quarter of an inch or more out of alignment. So this is a typical setup for a single strut alignment using the optical scope system.